The events of that day still weigh heavy on the hearts of many, maybe especially the firefighters on the front line, trying desperately to hold back and contain what many of them refer to as a monster. I recently sat down with Medford Fire Chief Eric Thompson and Medford Fire Battalion Chief Jason John to talk about September 8th and how that day forever changed their department. Both men have been in the fire service for 20 years, just to put it into perspective. And just to note, the majority of this video and these interviews airing tonight on News 10 for the first time.
I've got some firefighters down here.
I've never heard radio traffic like I did this day. It was, there was no talking from one engine to another or one resource to another. It was dispatch saying, we have an entrapment, we have an entrapment, we have an entrapment, we have an entrapment. Now, to us, entrapment means there is somebody who is stuck inside of a house that is on fire. They are unable to get out. And so that person is going to die without intervention.
Within minutes, Battalion Chief Jason John says their command structure, the way they normally operate on fires, was crumbling in front of them.
It was sickening because you could see this monster in front of you, and it was just getting bigger. Knowing that we didn't have any backup resources and that we're just getting spread to the wind, it was a really sickening feeling.
About 3:04 is when the fire shifted from going east to a more northwest direction. That's when I became engaged actually in the firefight. I went from more of a strategic planning mode to more of an operations mode. Typically as a fire chief, I wouldn't do that. However, we were thin officers and we were thin chiefs, and the incident required that engagement.
At that time, they say crews were working to keep the fire from taking a run through Phoenix, but it quickly became evident that goal was unrealistic. At several points, they were completely surrounded by fire.
You're looking into the eyes of the people in the cars and evacuating, and you see the fear in their eyes, and they're asking you for directions. They're asking you for help. What do we do? Where do we go? But at the same time, where are my firefighters? Where do I need to place these engines? Are the fire engines going where they don't belong right now?
John says in the beginning he approached this fire much like he would tackle a structure fire. Show up and put it out.
Put that house out. Well, in this one, it's just radiant heat from all four sides, breathing smoke, significant amounts of smoke.
Even their safety protocols went out the window. Firefighters blew through every single air pack on their engines within the first hour.
And I could see it in their faces. I could see it in every single one of these firefighters had bloodshot red eyes. Some of them, their eyes were so swollen it looked like they were just closed. I could see some of our guys just that took so much smoke that were on all fours, dry heaving at one point, that they just ingested so much smoke.
Both men said there were many points throughout the day they'd draw a line in the sand, getting ahead of the fire and determined to hold it. They would create a wall of engines, deck guns drawn, but the wind would blow embers sometimes a half mile or more right past them.
And that would light fires behind us and compromise our positions. And by the time I would make the call to leave, at least with my companies, it was really a sketch situation. They had to go, and they had to go right now.
There was a couple times that, as the day progressed, it wasn't as difficult to pull the crews and have them reestablish a new position. But at first it's like, what? We're going to leave this position? It's like, yes, because if we don't, we're not going to be able to go home when this is over with.
That was a hard pill to swallow for fire crews whose main job is to protect people and property.
Yeah, we're not used to losing like that. We go to a building on fire and put it out. It wasn't normal. So yeah, the guys it was weighing on them for sure.
Is there some PTSD in the department right now?
I think there is. The main thing that we're focusing on is supporting those who are showing some signs of that, but also reassuring them that just how non-typical this event was, and so how We could have had 1,000 people on duty that day, and we would have still got our tails handed to us.
At hour 36, the crews gathered. Everything was still on fire, but they had stopped it from growing. Both say morale was surprisingly high.
Looking across the crowd, they looked like zombies. I mean, they just really they'd given us everything. They fought for every single inch, and there was a lot of inches.
And just seeing everybody side by side, shoulder to shoulder, supporting each other, that was awesome. And seeing, they were tired. They were mentally and physically wiped out, but they weren't stopping.
And in that moment, Chief Thompson realized in a day of loss all around him, he won maybe the biggest, scariest battle of all.
Everybody got to go home. Everybody got to go home and see their family, hug their wife and their kids, their parents. That's what was cool. Because the first half of our career, there was a couple of times I didn't know if that was going to be the case.
I want to thank News 10 editor Felicia Lachère for her help with this piece. John also wanted to make sure it was mentioned, the work of law enforcement on that day. He said seeing them operate in that environment was one of the most impressive things he'd ever seen. He says they saved thousands and thousands of lives. As fire crews moved from place to place, neighborhoods would be empty. Medford Fire Department credits local law enforcement for that. There's so much more to this interview I could not fit in this news story. I've posted the entire interview unedited with both Chief Thompson and Battalion Chief John on my podcast this week. You can find the video versions at ktvl.com and on YouTube. Audio versions can be found wherever you like to listen to podcasts.